On July the 14th, 1789, the Bastille in Paris fell, and Europe was plunged into an era of revolutionary terror. The Earl of Chatham's son, William Pitt, believed in strict neutrality, and the British people were the spectators of the bloodshed. But the French Revolution had so charged the political and social atmosphere that when in 1793 France declared war on England, misled by reports that the English were willing to stage a revolution of their own, Pitt had no choice but to defend the realm, not only from without, but against political agitation from within. He was to discover that the armed forces were on the verge of mutiny. Churchill pinpoints the situation like this. But such had been the neglect of conditions of service in the Navy that the ships at Spithead refused to put to sea.
Seized up, sir.
Hats off! By virtue of the powers vested in me under the Articles of War, and being the senior in rank here present, I find this man guilty of disobeying the lawful order of his superior officer, and showing the same officer disrespect. 50 lashes, bosun. Do your duty. Show me the man's backbone, by God!
All right, sir.
Quiet there! Be still and watch, you'll get the same, damn you!
His Grace the Most Noble William Henry Cavendish Bentinck, Duke of Portland, Home Secretary.
Ah, Graham?
Sir.
Mr. Aaron Graham.
Your Grace.
We've not met, I think, in person. No, your work, of course. In fact, they tell me that radicals quail when they know that you're sitting on the bench at Bow Street, huh?
Well, they've no reason to, unless they're lawbreakers.
Quite, quite. I'm sure I didn't mean to suggest, Please, sit down. In a nutshell, Graham, it seems that Jolly Jack Tar has elected to belie his name, at least at Spithead. Frankly, I'm less concerned with why than that he has.
I hear that the men have taken the law into their own hands.
You hear aright. And most deplorable it is. But if it's to remedy some service grievance, real or imaginary, well, it's not part of my job to save face for the Lords Commissioners of the Admiralty. On the contrary. Politics. Yeah. I shall, of course, deny it if you quote me. Yes, well, be that as it may. I don't have to tell you there are dangerous ideas about these days.
The Jacobins.
The corresponding societies. Tom Paine and his ilk with their poisonous notions.
The rights of man.
Call it what you will. The mob yaps at the heels of authority, uncomfortably close to home. If any such elements exist in this, why then, before the infection spreads, they must be cut from the nation as quick and clean as a surgeon amputates a gangrenous limb. So, sir, I charge you to establish the real facts of the situation and report them to me alone.
What of my other duties?
On the bench. Oh, you're relieved of them. As to your methods, be sure, be quick, above all, be discreet. Whatever the reasons, the matter must be concluded before the king's enemies can advantage themselves of our present disarray.
Very well.
You will remember, will you not, that order is the prerequisite of justice?
Your Grace.
Go to, then. You say he's a king's man?
Never fear, Your Grace. He stands for law and order.
Well, that's not necessarily the same thing.
I assure you.
Nonetheless, you'll cover the ground independent of him. You take my meaning, Mr. Williams.
How many shirts will you need?
What, my love?
How long will you be away?
I really can't tell.
I'll put in 3. If you need more, you must write and I'll send to Spithead. 3 and the one you're wearing clean on. That should see you started.
Yes, whatever you say.
If you succeed, it could mean preferment in the judiciary.
Clearly.
Then why are you worried?
Oh, I know nothing of seamen or the sea.
You're a magistrate. You tell right from wrong.
Under the law, that's the discipline within which I perform. But to be taken from it and sent to examine the unruly. Oh, it's privilege, of course. I couldn't refuse, but...
You must be able to tell the truth, surely.
The truth? When only a navy in mutiny stands between France on the one hand and an Ireland on the brink of rebellion on the other, will they want the truth? Well, we shall see.
And why not? When we live like pigs and die in horror, should we play like children?
Are you yourself a seaman?
Not anymore. In that game, you're finished at 45. Double ruptured as like as not and raw with scurvy. That is if the sea herself and the enemy's shot hasn't claimed you before then. But I was. I've been a wanderer and a child of chance all my days. Now I just look to the time when I joined my last ship and be anchored with the green turf upon my breast Oh, no, cannot. As soon the command is given.
You give us a song tonight, Grandpa?
Oh, I'll never be heard in Augustine.
Ambassador! Grandpa's agreed to give us one of his songs!
Sweet and lovely Nancy, 10,000 times again. I'm a-going round the ocean to look for something new. Come change your ring with me, Madoc. Come change your ring with me. For it might be a token of true love while I am on the sea.
Now, sir, leave me be. Your name and your business. I insist. I said your name.
Graham. Aaron Graham.
And why are you interested in us?
I'm not particularly.
And why are you here? And why all the questions?
I'm appointed to discover the real reasons for the mutiny.
Why?
The Home Secretary.
Well,
How am I to discover that I don't ask questions?
oh, how indeed.
I've already heard the authorities' side.
I wonder if the Home Secretary realises he's engaged an honest man.
Now, if your fellow would let me go. Who are you anyway?
Valentine Joyce. Of no consequence in myself. Merely one of 32 delegates of the fleet at Spithead. 2 from each ship. But in this matter, we speak with a single voice. But come.
Where to?
Aboard His Majesty's ship, the Royal George. Well, how else come it, Pluto? You've got nothing to hide. All right, make way there.
If I might be of any assistance.
I don't imagine so. Why?
These fellows are forcing their attention on you.
Thank you, but I go with them quite freely. If you please.
You haven't been properly introduced to my colleague, fellow delegate, John Morris.
Sir,
Say,
you were granted captain's honours, I see.
the honour is in recognition of our position as delegate, not to ourselves.
Delegates? Isn't that the term that the American rebels used?
Well, if they did, they bought it off the Romans. What's the matter?
You're not the ignorant savages I was led to expect, that's all.
You.
Now, hark ye. He has a complete list of every delegate of the fleet at Spithead. Now, they're all seasoned seamen. There are 5 midshipmen, several petty officers, none of us below the rank of able seamen. And don't look for ringleaders either. We're properly elected by our shipmates, and in serving them, we either stand or fall together.
And don't look for traitors either. Not a man in the fleet that is actuated by any spirit of sedition or disaffection.
By what, then?
Indigent. An extreme penury alone was the cause of our complaint.
You went on from there.
Yes, but... Look, it's late. Why don't we give you everything there is to document our side of the story? We give you a berth, and in the morning, you can ask us any question you like.
Unless you're afraid to stay aboard.
Not at all.
You can leave whenever you wish. All you have to do is say the word. But until then...
And then?
So, sleep well.
Thank you. If I might have pen, ink, and paper.
Yeah, we'll see to it presently. We'll also have someone go ashore to fetch your baggage.
Hmm? Oh, yes, that too.
Good night, then.
Good night.
Good night.
I feel myself peculiarly compelled to point out the little avail of prescribing medicine to unhappy sufferers. Numbers, bad ulcers, foul air between decks, besides being frequently trod upon in the night from their crowded state. The circumambient air is so impregnated with human effluvia that contagious fevers must inevitably be the result. The cat of nine tails is applied to the bare back, and at about every 6 lashes, a fresh boatswain's mate is ordered to relieve the executioner of his duty, until the prisoner has received perhaps 25 lashes. He's then cast loose and allowed to sit down with the blanket rolled round him, whilst being rowed to the next ship. The doctor will then feel his pulse, and often pronounces that the man is unable to bear more. He is then taken, most usually insensible, to what is termed the sick bay, and if he recovers, he will receive the remainder of his punishment until he has been flogged aboard every ship of the fleet.
35 leagues. Then a signal was made for the Grand Fleet to anchor, and all in the Downs that night for 2 more. Cast off your shank painters, stand by your cat stoppers, haul up your crew guard nets and tacks and sheets.
We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors. We'll range and we'll roll all over the salt seas until we strike soundings in the channel of old England. From Usher to Scilly is 35 leagues.
Now let every man swing off a full bumper. Now let every man swing off a full bowl. For a drink and be jolly and drown melancholy, with a help to its jovial and true-hearted soul.
We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors.
In but a while, his back resembles so much petrified liver, and every stroke of the cat brings away congealed blood, and the boatswain's mates are looked at with the eye of a hawk to see they do their duty and clear the cat's tails after every stroke, the blood at the time streaming through their fingers. Aye, for he is only attempting to escape after having been impressed.
It's one thing to read about it, but have you ever seen what the cat can do? There. Don't flinch, sir, that's healed. And only 50 lashes too. 100. A 300's hardly worth remarking on. A 500, or even 1,000's not unknown. One man that survives that's fit for nothing ever after.
But only a captain may order more than 12 strokes of the lash. That only after court-martial.
Oh, he knows his Admiralty regulations.
The Article of War runs all crimes not capital to be punished according to the customs and manners used at sea.
Which means that any jack in office can dish out any punishment he likes.
And does!
Do you know why a ship is worse than a jail?
No.
Because in jail, there's better air, better company, better conditions of every kind.
And a ship has the additional disadvantage of
being in danger.
You know who said that?
Dr. Johnson, no less.
Pay hasn't advanced in over 100 years. 24 shillings a month for an able seaman and deductions that halve that. Chatham chest, slops, extra food.
And we've no term of service, no leave.
How would you like to serve 2 years in the tropics? And when you get home, not be allowed ashore?
No reprovisions until you've finished all the rotten victuals aboard.
No pay when we're sick or wounded. And when we do get it, it's anything up to 2 years and more in arrears. Never issued in full until the ship's paid off.
And then not in cash?
Oh, no. In tickets, convertible to cash, only in your port of commissioning.
Which means, if you're paid off somewhere else, you very likely can't collect it at all.
That's right. I tell you, sir, we come in for different reasons. The pressmen are kidnapped into service. The quota men are here for a pittance in preference to jail. Precious few are volunteers. But once in, the same things keep us here. Little patriotism and a lot of fear.
Do you know the seaman's prayer before going into battle? Let death be shared like prize money. The lion's share to the officers.
You have serious and legitimate grievances, I'll allow. But I cannot excuse your decision to mutiny.
But until we did, we had no answer.
We have petitioned the Admiralty times without number. No acknowledgement. We have petitioned the Admiral of the Fleet, Earl Howe. Not a word. We have petitioned Parliament.
Until we mutinied, no one even heard.
Yes, I do see. Nonetheless, their lordships came to treat with you.
Eventually.
Met your terms.
Some of them.
And offered you a pardon, which you refused.
A bare 3 years ago, their lordships offered the mutineers upon HMS Culloden a free pardon, if they surrendered.
And when they did, they probably hanged them.
Well, now you've a king's pardon.
But not a settlement of the other matters which have been outstanding now for 3 weeks.
But, good Lord, there are committees and acts to be passed and I don't know what else.
They found time to push measures through against us, all right.
So, run up the red flag again?
Why not?
And strike the royal ensign?
No! Our trouble is not with His Majesty, never was. Only with their lordships.
Find me Earl Howe.
Sir, it is the request of the ship's company that you quit the ship precisely at 8 o'clock.
As it is unanimously agreed you should leave the ship. We wish you to leave it peaceable. Desperate measures will be taken.
Yes?
What's to be done?
Treat with the delegates.
That could open
the floodgates of revolution. Don't act the clown, man. They're already yawning wide.
They need never have been. If you had answered the men's first petition.
Spilt milk, man. Spilt milk.
And what of the officers that have been put ashore?
Do you want to save face? Or do you want a settlement?
We can't have the men choose which officers they'll sail under. That concession is ineligible.
And if it was to become indispensably necessary?
You will let the officers go hang rather than fail in your mission.
As you wish.
It is the Prime Minister's wish, not mine.
Away to go, then. Are we all of one mind now, gentlemen?
The officers removed!
Shall not return, save with the consent of the ship's companies concerned.
And any future petitions?
Upon mine honour, shall receive prompt and serious attention, provided they are properly drafted and signed.
Well, that's that then. We've won!
We should like to thank your lordship for your conciliatory behaviour.
Will you take a glass of wine with me, Joyce?
Thank you, my lord!
God save the king! God save the king! Hey, damn me, I nearly forgot. The king's pardon is extended to all such seamen and marines on board any ships of the fleet who may have been guilty of any act of mutiny, or disobedience of orders, or neglect of duty, or who have returned or shall, upon notification of such His Majesty's proclamation, return to the regular and ordinary discharge of their duty, and there shall be no recrimination, but a total oblivion of such offences. There you are! Let's have no more of your nonsense, eh, my lads?
Let's have a look at you. Oh, the Home Secretary should be proud of you. I know we are. What is it?
I'm afraid they're not going to like it very much.
Afraid?
Oh.
You deal with what is, and we'll do the same.
You're a good woman.
Get along.
Step up, man. I'm given to understand you've not met the First Lord of the Admiralty, Earl Spencer.
No, sir, I've not had that pleasure, my lord.
My pleasure, Master Graham.
And the Secretary to the Admiralty, Mr. Evan Nepean.
Graham.
Nepean. I thought it only fitting to afford you an opportunity of meeting these gentlemen. I mean, in view of your conclusions.
I've reached them only after long and careful deliberation.
Of course, of course.
And you'll be the better prepared for us to question them.
I hope so, my lord.
For instance, you say that you could find nothing like want of loyalty to the king or attachment to the government.
Yes?
You wouldn't care to qualify that.
No.
You admit there was a mutiny.
I have. I might not have done. It depends how one defines one's terms.
Mutiny, by definition, is a revolt against authority.
Against proper authority.
Sophistry.
Not at all. That is the hinge on which the whole case turns.
Let's not get into the area of opinion, gentlemen.
I don't give a fig for his opinion.
I'm speaking of facts.
Facts? What facts?
The fact that you've no proper authority over the vast majority of the fleet. The pressmen and the quota men. The fact that you fail to honor your own terms, most criminally, in the matters of pay, provisions, and discipline. The fact that the present articles of war are more barbarous than those in force under His late Majesty King Charles II. The fact that the pay of seamen has not been advanced since the time of Cromwell. A fact aggravated by the present increases to the military and all officers. The fact that even the men's due was in arrears, to the tune on the 31st December last of close on £1.5 million. The fact that since 1795 at least, you ignored innumerable complaints on all these matters, moderately stated and in the proper manner, and that finally, having provoked the men beyond endurance, the fact that you fueled the flames of their grievance and mistrust with act upon act of obstinacy, stupidity, meanness, deceit, and prevarication. You ask for facts. Those are the facts, sir.
By God, you've the mind of a radical and the manners of
No. Let's be quite unemotional and calm. You maintain, in short, that the men's methods were justified by the rightness of their cause.
Not justified. Excused, my lord.
A nice distinction.
Legal quibbling.
Real, though, very real.
Oh, that's so. And you, sir, being a man who deals in facts, how do you account for the fact that the fleet at the Nore is now in mutiny?
having been offered the terms granted the fleet at Spithead, and flatly rejecting them.
I should have to inquire into the matter.
I think you should. Your Grace.
Your Grace?
Well, you walked into that one, didn't you? Hmm? In future, I'll thank you to tread more circumspectly.
Your Grace.
Graham, I had you in mind for higher things. They could still be yours. But, a word to the wise, I doubt if I shall even be able to keep you your place on the bench, unless you can come up with more acceptable conclusions this time.
Williams.
Graham.
Tail between the legs, hmm? A fall from grace, as it were. Never mind, this is a very different kettle of fish from Spithead.
I'll not be directed, Mr. Williams.
Now, don't misunderstand me. I am here to help. But face facts. They need a scapegoat. It's in your interest to find one. Mine, too. It so happens I found one.
Name?
Richard Parker, self-styled admiral. Isn't there?
The president of the committee of the delegates to the fleet.
This is no plain, blunt Jack Tar, either. It's a man of 30, mature, experienced, educated. A grammar school boy that ran away to sea and rose to be a midshipman in the American War. He was a rebel then. At 16, he challenged his captain to a duel.
Rumour.
Master's mate on a Mediterranean trader between wars. And leading a mutiny over the food.
I can find no evidence for that either.
Well, there is evidence that he was court-martialed as an officer and disrated to ordinary seamen in the present war, 1791, disobeying a superior.
Even the official record allows he was provoked.
Well, provoked or not, he was dismissed the service.
3 years later. And then he was medically discharged.
On what grounds, though?
Chronic rheumatism.
And?
Symptoms of neurotic behavior.
Do you see what I mean? So what does he do? He nurses a grudge, he brushes up the old politics, and turns up again as able seaman 3 days before the mutiny at the Nore breaks out, and 3 days later, he's running it. What more do you want?
The truth.
Of course.
The whole truth.
God help us.
Charles Buckner, Vice Admiral.
The commander of His Majesty's vessels and the men made the Boy of the Nore.
My lord, on the second day of the mutiny, May the 13th, what happened?
The mutineers caused a king's ship, the HMS Fiorenzo, to be fired upon for failing to salute them.
Was there much damage done?
I beg your... Damage? Not in the material sense, no, but firing on a king's ship.
The point's well made, Auntie.
Parker wasn't even a delegate at the time.
After Parker had been elected president of the Committee of Delegates on May the 20th, you were invited to meet him.
Yes, yes. And on going on board with my flag in my boat, I received no respect whatsoever.
Was so-called Admiral Richard Parker or you on board first?
I was.
Then you can hardly hold him responsible for your reception.
No, I suppose not, no.
In fact, was there ever any insolence in his conduct towards you?
Yes, frequently, sir. And at other times, a great deal of modesty and respect. Extraordinary chap.
Thank you, sir.
A big one. Oh, yes, thank you. Good day.
Never mind. Even you can't make bricks without straw.
Whatever else the gallant Admiral has between his ears, I can't imagine.
It was a shameful episode. The first time in our history that our ships had turned tail in the face of the enemy. If the Dutch had put to sea, it could have cost us the war.
In the event, however, they didn't. And you were unable to reach a solution?
That is correct, sir.
One more question, my lord. Did Parker, on behalf of the delegates, threaten to blockade the port of London?
He not only threatened it, he did so.
After you had instructed the agent Vittler at Chatham to cut off supplies to the Nore Fleet.
Well?
Without the blockade, they would have starved.
A proper fate for rebels and traitors.
By what right do you call them that?
His Majesty proclaimed them so.
Until that royal proclamation, you might have made a case for Parker. Not now.
He appealed to His Majesty to intervene personally.
And got a succinct no. That poor devil couldn't even hold the fleet together. He was dead and done for 2 weeks before he even surrendered.
We clearly have pictures of a very different man.
So how to reconcile them?
Come in, Mrs. Parker.
Mrs. Parker.
Yes.
How long have you been married, Mrs. Parker?
6 years.
And would you say that your husband was a political man?
Being educated, he'd take an interest in what was going on. As to whether it was good or bad,
You mean to say he didn't bother to differentiate?
No. But then he was confused about life in general. I was half afraid he'd kill himself.
Are you saying he's not responsible for his actions? Well, are you?
Once, I remember, he said to me he didn't know whether to be more afraid of the tyranny of the mob or the tyranny of the establishment. It was something like that. He said it was the educated man's dilemma.
Yes. What did he do from the time of his being discharged until now?
We lived in Scotland and he taught.
What?
The 3 R's. Reading, writing and arithmetic at the village school.
Oh, very radical.
Did he discuss his naval experiences with you?
Of course. They'd been the best part of his life all these years.
The best?
Under a good captain. Then he said there was no life like it in the world. Never mind that the pay was poor.
And under a bad captain, I mean, what were his grievances then?
The usual. The food, the lack of leave, the cruel way the seamen were abused.
So he came back to try and remedy them?
No.
Why then?
He was a quota man. The bounty was just enough to pay off his debts and leave a little over for me and the children. That's why he came back. It's the only reason.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker.
Thank you, sir.
She's bound to try and protect him.
What is the case against him in law?
Piracy, firing on a king's ship.
But he did not give the order personally.
He doesn't deny it.
That order was not given in a personal capacity, but as the elected president of the delegates to the fleet.
If you use that argument, it will cover everything.
Yeah, that's my understanding. And I firmly believe it is the one that must be arrived at by the civil power.
Maybe that's why he's being tried by court-martial under the Articles of War. Didn't you know?
What charges?
For causing and endeavouring to cause mutinous assemblies on board His Majesty's ships at the Nore, for refusing to obey the lawful commands of his superior officers, and for treating his superior officers with disrespect.
Fuck me, you damn polyphemus-looking bugger! When you put that halter around my neck, I'll give you such a kick in the gut, she'll send your soul to hell!
That is the closest you've been to a revolutionary, I suppose. Did you expect to find me knitting by the guillotine?
At least you admit you're a revolutionary.
You can't need to put words into my mouth now, can you?
The men said they elected you president because you were educated, because you knew Navy ways, because you were personable, and having been an officer, that you could talk with and write to the high and mighty better than they.
It seems plausible, though it's not for me to say.
Why did you accept?
Oh, you would say vanity.
You shouldn't need to put words into our mouths, huh?
A touch of vanity, then.
And what else?
How could I indifferently stand by and behold some of the best of my fellow creatures cruelly treated by some of the very worst? I candidly confess I could not.
You maintain you were not an original mover of the disturbances.
I was elected delegate by my shipmates without my knowledge, and in the same manner the delegates made me their president. What's more, every plan originated from the aggregate body.
Did you never act of yourself?
Only in checking the violence of the men. It's stupid, really. Owing to the delegates' moderation, they've been overcome. May I offer you some advice? It's the result of Dearport experience. Remember never to make yourself the busybody of the lower classes, for they're cowardly, selfish, and ungrateful. The least trifle will intimidate them. And he whom they've exalted one moment as their demagogue, the next they will not hesitate to exalt upon the gallows.
The mutineers have been accused of disloyalty. If you were to confirm that,
it is a false accusation. The men are loyal and well attached to the ruling powers. Now, gentlemen, if you will excuse me, I have to prepare myself for another engagement.
Here are 2 guineas, which your brother sends you for your comfort.
Well, then, I shall have a roast goose before I die.
Please let me through. I must speak to my husband. I'm Mrs. Parker.
Deliver me from blood guiltiness, O God, thou God of my salvation, and my soul shall sing aloud of thy righteousness.
We find first, there was no connection or correspondence between the mutineers and any disloyal person or society whatever.
May I be indulged with a glass of white wine? I drink first to the salvation of my soul, next to the forgiveness of my enemies. Thank you. I hope you'll shake hands with me, sir.
Second, when matters were at their most extreme, the mutineers declared that notwithstanding their grievances, they would loyally respond should the nation be endangered. Third, like the blockade, the decision to fire on His Majesty's ships was not the work of any one man, but an aggregate plan born of despair. In this connection, you will note that the mutineers commanded enough guns to have taken the capital, had they been minded to do so.
May I be allowed to speak? I'm not, sir, going to address the ship's company. I wish only to declare. I acknowledge the justice of the sentence under which I suffer. I hope my death may be deemed sufficient atonement and save the lives of others. I wish a minute to collect myself.
It is as ridiculous as it is unjust to attempt to lay the blame on any one man. More than 115 ships' companies volunteered their allegiance to the mutiny. The causes were the same as those at Spithead, and that the consequences were more serious was because the mutineers were less organized at the Nore.
I wholly concur.
I am commanded to inform you that neither of your services will be required in any official capacity in future.
I'm sorry.
Much to my surprise, I'm not.
I'm ready. Take off my kerchief. Do you do it, for he seems to know nothing about it. I request you do not pull a cap over my eyes till I desire you to do so. Goodbye to you. Is the gun pointed?
It is.
Is the match alight?
All is ready.
Will any gentleman be so good as to lend me a white handkerchief for the signal? Thank you.
Fire, damn you! Show him at the yardarm!
finished.
But were you right?
All I know is that the sea appeared covered with blood.